All right, you've seen the headlines and it's saying the housing market is crashing. Prices are finally falling, or you've seen the opposite, still no relief for buyers and inventory is nowhere to be found. Both of these headlines ran in the same month and about the same market. That should tell you something, right? Those headlines aren't wrong exactly, they're just kind of lazy headlines here, and they're describing an average in the region. And nobody buys or sells a regional average. You buy a house in Gig Harbor, you sell a house in Tacoma, you relocate to a zip code, not a metro area. Here's the myth that I want to kill in the first 60 seconds. The idea that more inventory automatically means falling prices and it's a buyer's market, well, it doesn't. At least not uniformly. Inventory across our region is up over 16% year over year. The median price was unchanged from last May, but it's down about 3% from last June. So if you're only tracking one number, you're going to make a six-figure decision on incomplete information, honestly. So here's what I'm going to do for you in the next 15 minutes. I'm going to give you some real numbers. I'm going to break them down by King County, Pierce County, Snohomish, Kitsap, and Thurston counties, because those 5 markets are not behaving in the same way. And I'll show you exactly how they're differing right now. Then I'm going to tell you the single biggest thing buyers are missing right now. The mistake that's costing sellers true money. What you actually need to know if you're relocating here. And where I'm thinking the market's going to go over the next 6 to 12 months. Stay with me because the county breakdown here alone is going to change how you're going to think about timing. All right, so let me start regionally and then I'm going to zoom into your county. Because the market is really 5 different markets and it's kind of wearing a trench coat right now. Across the Northwest MLS, as of June 2026, our active listings are sitting just over 23,000. That's up 16.4% from a year ago. New listings came in around 11,600 for the month. That's up nearly 6% year over year. Closed sales are actually up 2.3% year over year. So buyers are still making transactions here. Pending sales, though, dipped slightly, just about 1.6% below last year's. So what that's telling me is some of our new inventory here is sitting a bit longer before it goes under contract. So regional months of supply is sitting at 3.37. Remember that number, we're going to use it. So right now our median price around the region is about $650,000. That's unchanged from May, but that's down about 3% from a year ago. And mortgage rates have been running in the mid to upper 6% range. Freddie Mac had the 30-year fixed at a 6.66% as of July 13th. Now, here's where it gets useful. Because 3.37 months of supply regionally is an average of markets that are not remotely equal. These county numbers combine residential and condo sales in the Northwest MLS. King County had a June median of $889,000. And active inventory increased approximately 7% from a year ago. And the county sits at 3.39 months of supply. So the closest of these 5 counties to the 4.6 month range, Northwest MLS generally considers balanced. Snohomish County had a median of $725,500. So inventory increased close to 29% year over year. Now, while supply remained relatively tight at the 2.7 for 4 months, a county absorbing a lot of new listings fast is what's going on. Pierce County had a median of $595,000. That's up about 2.8% from last June. So right here, you're seeing that inventory increased to about 15%. And now the county is sitting at about 2.66 months of supply. That's still below what the Northwest MLS would consider a balanced market. That's still favorable grounds for sellers, where Kitsap County remained the tightest market in the entire Northwest MLS service area. 2.15 months of supply. Median price is about $582,500. And here's the twist on this. Active inventory in Kitsap actually decreased about 2% from last year. This is one of the only counties in our 5 where supply shrank instead of grew. Thurston County had a median of $560,000. Inventory here increased to approximately 29%. That's one of the largest increases in the entire Northwest MLS service area. And supply reached 2.93 months, trending towards a balance faster than almost anywhere else. Read that back and tell me the market is one thing. It's not. It's 5 markets. And know which one you're actually operating in is the difference between a smart move and maybe an expensive guess here. So to understand why 2026 feels so different, you honestly have to understand why we got here in the first place. From 2020 through about early 2022, we had historically low mortgage rates. That was like a pandemic era demand. And then we had extremely limited inventory, which created this intense competition going on here. In parts of the Puget Sound region, homes routinely were having multiple offers. They were being sold within days and they closed well above what the asking price actually was listed for. If you were a buyer in that market, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was brutal. And it honestly trained an entire generation of buyers and sellers to expect this is really normal, and it's not. It was a once-in-a-generation anomaly that created, by emergency, low rates and pandemic-driven demand, and it was slamming into historically low supply. So the shift started to change in 2022 as mortgage rates rose pretty sharply. The sales slowed and the market times increased here, so buyers gradually regained that negotiating power. So by 2023-2024, conditions were far less frenzy-like, though the results varied definitely by county, property type, and even the price range. So why does 2026 feel different than either of these 2 side chapters? Because we're not in a frenzy and we're definitely not in a free fall. We're in this recalibration period. Inventory here has definitely been climbing steadily, county by county, towards what actually counts as what they would consider balanced, I guess. That's 4 to 6 months worth of supply that we have. So at 3.37 months, regional supply remains below that normal range. Some counties are starting to get close to that, specifically like King County. And then we've got counties that are like Pierce and Kitsap that are still tight enough that they're gonna favor the sellers for sure. So prices are not crashing. They're definitely softening moderately and unevenly, to be honest. So that's a fundamental difference between environment that we saw earlier in 2021, where it was definitely a frenzy-like feeling, or in that 2022 to 2023 correction. And it demands a different strategy than either of those, what we were learning during those type of years. Here's the mistake that I'm watching buyers make right now. They hear inventory is up 16% and they wait for the prices to crash. So here's the thing that people are not thinking about. Prices don't fall in lockstep with inventory. They fall when inventory outpaces the buyer demand badly enough to force sellers into some type of concession. So closed sales are still up year over year and buyers are still absorbing what's coming new onto the market. At 3.37 months, supply remains below that 4 to 6 month range. The Northwest MLS describes this kind of as balanced, I guess. So what's actually changing right now is leverage, not price, and leverage is where the real money is going to be made. Let's make this real. Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario. So imagine you're relocating from California right now with, let's say, a $900,000 budget. In 2021, that budget got you outbid probably 3 times before you finally waived an inspection just to win the deal. In 2026, that same budget in King County puts you in the market with inventory about 17% year over year and 3.39 months of supply. That is truly the closest to balance of any of the counties we've covered so far. So with that, you have real room to ask for a rate buy down. You might be able to negotiate some closing costs, and you can actually get an inspection and maybe use it. That shift went from win at any cost to negotiate the terms back and forth. That's one of the biggest opportunities buyers are having right now. And most of them don't know it because we're still operating in this 2021 psychology that we had set up. Here's where the leverage is, and it's concentrated county by county. So King is going to be the closest to balanced at the county level. And again, although leverage is going to vary by property type, price, and neighborhood, Snohomish is going to be following super closely with that. Its inventory is growing fast, and even as supply stays pretty darn tight. Where Pierce, Kitsap, and Thurston are still favoring sellers on well-priced homes. Inventory is growing in most of them, but absorption is still pretty fast. So what this means is your leverage is going to show up more on some of the terms in the contract, like seller paid rate buy downs. Maybe the closing costs you're getting a credit for it. You might be given a home warranty. It's more than what's on the sale price itself. So if you're a first-time buyer in Pierce County right now, don't base your decision on the assumption that some major discount is going to be guaranteed, because it isn't. With 2.66 months of supplies, that's not going to happen. Instead, I want you to try to negotiate things that lower your actual monthly payment. Focus on that right now. So maybe a 2-1 buy down, seller credits towards your points, a shorter close if you can make that happen. That's where 2026 money gets made for buyers. Not in a price where that's mostly settled, but in structuring the deal smarter than the next buyer. So if you're selling, here's kind of the uncomfortable truth. The market didn't crash, but it stopped covering for kind of bad pricing at this point. In 2021, you could price a home 10% high and get it sold in some bidding war chaos. That grace period is pretty much largely over. Overpriced today, and your home is going to risk becoming the listing that just sits, while the better price comps sell around you and reset what buyers are thinking about what your house is truly worth. Let's say if you're a seller right now in Tacoma who bought in 2019, you've got real equity in there. So Pierce County numbers are still substantially up from where you bought. But you're watching an estimate from about 18 months ago and thinking that's still your number, and guess what? It's probably not. Overpricing is one of the most common reasons homes are sitting longer. Though condition, location, layout, and property type, of course, that matters as well. So Pierce County is still moving with real urgency at 2.66 months of supplies, but that urgency belongs to homes that are really priced against the most relevant recent comparable sales. They're looking at current competition, condition, and what neighborhood demand is right now, not against a peak 2022 number. So preparation matters more than it did in 2021 because buyers have options and they're definitely using them right now. Professional staging, doing a pre-listing inspection, decluttering, maybe giving it a bit of curb appeal, all of it moves from nice to have to something that materially affects the outcome of your sale. Your marketing needs to work hard in the first several days on market. And that's when the serious pre-qualified buyers are watching. And that's when an aggressive strategy still works well. In counties like Kitsap and Pierce, where supply is truly the tightest right now. So the common mistake I keep seeing is sellers are trying to test the market just to see what happens at that highest point. And that's in a market where we've got 16% more competing inventory than we had last year. So testing high is not going to be free for them. It costs you the window of maximum buyer attention, and it's training the buyers to see your home as a problem instead of an opportunity. Meanwhile, homes priced right, staged right, and marketed aggressively from day one are still moving super quickly in Kitsap, Pierce, and in Thurston County, where supply remains well under 3 months. So that's the same market, but a very different outcome that's going on. And the difference here is strategy. It's definitely not luck that you happen to have the right person show up. All right, so if you're relocating here, because I talk to relocators every week, you honestly need the real picture of each of these counties, because what you're hearing is Seattle's really expensive. All right, King County is your urban core. Seattle, Bellevue, the East Side Tech Corridor. They're going to have the highest prices in the region, a median of $889,000 in this area. You also are going to have the most walkable and transit connected. So King County generally has the highest housing costs of all of these 5 counties. Washington also uses a graduated real estate excise tax structure, which can increase the tax due on higher price sales. And that tax is genuinely paid by the seller. This is definitely worth knowing whichever side of the transaction you're on. Snohomish County is your family-friendly suburb. It's going to have Everett over there, Linwood, and Snohomish, of course, and it's going to be your most affordable area compared to King County, and they've got a really, really strong school system. So access to Seattle, you can get there by I-5, you can take the Sounder Rail, and you can also go from Linwood on that light rail. Although, honestly, some of the actual commute times vary dramatically because of the location or the time of the day. Right now, it's one of the fastest growing inventory counties pretty much out there, meaning more selection than it's had in probably years. We're going to drop down to Pierce County. So we're talking Tacoma, Puyallup, Gig Harbor, and University Place. That's where I spend most of my time, and it's the value play in the region. Your medium is at about $595,000. It's definitely an arts and food scene in Tacoma, and the proximity is close to your military joint base, which is that Lewis McChord base, if you're military or maybe a contractor. Now, inventory here is still under 3 months of supply. So if you're relocating and you find the right house, definitely don't sit on it. Things are moving a lot faster out here. Kitsap County is the peninsula lifestyle. Bremerton, Paulsbo, Silverdale, Gig Harbor's western neighbors, which are right across the water. This is the tightest supply of any area. We are at 2.15 months of supply, and unlike any other county we've covered, active inventory here has actually shrank about 2% year over year instead of growing. So it comes here though with a ferry commute if you're working in Seattle. All right, for the remote workers or anyone that's not tied to a downtown job, what you're getting out here is you're getting water views and a very quaint small town feel at a definitely lower price point. Your median price here is going to be $582,500. Thurston County, we're talking Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. This is the affordability leader of all 5 right now. Your median price range is going to be $560,000. And guess what? It's the state capital, so there's a stable government employment base underneath this area. Commute to Seattle is real. It's closer to 60 miles. But for anyone that's trying to prioritize space and price over proximity, it's a strong dollar-to-dollar value in this region right now across all of these 5 counties. Get your actual property tax number before you write up an offer. It's going to vary by district and levy, not just by home value, and estimating it is definitely a good way to get some type of surprise later. The other thing to look for is school assignments and attendance boundaries can change from one address to the next. So make sure you're verifying your assigned school directly with the district before you fall in love with the house. All right, and then when people are saying, oh wow, on the map, this looks like it's close to Seattle, and what close to Seattle means when you're driving it because of traffic during rush hour, trust me, those are 2 very different things. I'll walk any relocation client through real commute testing before we write an offer, just so that they feel it out to see if they can handle it. All right, so here's my honest balance read, not just a sales pitch. Rates remain one of the market's biggest uncertainties right now. So Fannie Mae's July forecast is calling for about a 30-year fixed rate to average around 6.4%. That's through the remainder of 2026. So through inflation, bond yields, and broader economic conditions, that could move that number in either direction. I'm definitely not counting on a rate drop bailing anyone out this year. I'm expecting inventory to keep climbing across most of the region, but unevenly. King and Thurston are moving towards balanced fastest by the months of supply numbers. That's just how it is. Pierce and especially Kitsap County are likely to stay tight well into the next year. So Kitsap in particular, since its supply actually pulled back over the last year instead of growing. I'm expecting that prices are going to probably stay pretty flat to maybe a little bit softer, with real variation by county, of course, and by neighborhood. This is definitely not a market where you can use one number for all these counties. I wouldn't trust anyone who tells you otherwise. If they say it's all the same in Washington, it's definitely not. So, what I'm personally watching, I watch the new construction pipeline because that's the supply lever that actually changes affordability long term, not just resale inventory. The regional employers I'm looking at, like Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, all of our healthcare sectors, because honestly, job stability is going to drive the market more than any type of headline is going to do. And the spread between renting and owning, because when that gap starts to become tightened, first time buyer demands tend to show up pretty darn fast for us. And it's likely going to show up first in tighter counties like Kitsap and Pierce County. So if you're buying, don't base your plan on a discount because it's definitely not going to be guaranteed right now. Try working with some of the terms instead. And if you're selling right now, make sure you're pricing to today's comps, not 2022 when it was at that top. And prepare like buyers have options, because in most of our counties right now, they do. All right, so that's the real Puget Sound market right now. It's not a headline version. I'm giving you the county by county version, what it's actually going to mean for you. All right, guys, so if you're looking to relocate, maybe you're looking to buy or sell, or you're working on that investment portfolio and you're anywhere from the 500 to 3 million range, I have put together my relocation guide and market guide for this area, and it's definitely filled with much more than what I can do in this 15-minute video. The link for this is in my description. It's completely free. There's no obligation. And if you're serious about making a move in the next 6 to 12 months, don't try to time the market alone from a spreadsheet. So reach out to me. I'm available at any time. Let's build a strategy together around the specific county that you're looking at your budget and maybe your timeline, so that we can see what the market trends are. Because as you just saw, the market isn't one thing in each of these areas. It's changing, and it's changing differently. I'm Leanne Hall with Paramount Real Estate Group. I am your real estate consultant here in Pierce County, and this is my Puget Sound Market Report. I will be back here next month with the next set of numbers. If you like this information and you want to stay up to date on the market, subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day.